I finally narrowed down my top movies list for 2022, and I gotta say, this was stupid difficult. While I do have 10 on this list, I've also cheated a bit with a handful of honorable mentions. So, just like with my best of TV list, really the only rules for this is that I must have done a review on the film for them to be included here. Also, these aren't ranked necessarily by the score that they receive from me. Rewatchability, it's a huge part of this, but really it just comes down to how much did I enjoy them. There may have been even some on this list that are less than awesome from technical perspectives, but if I had fun with them and they were able to bubble to the top, then they're on the list. Also, I definitely know that there are ones that will make you question my sanity for not including them, or maybe for including them. So let me know what makes your best of list for 2022 in the comments below. All right, so without further ado, or any apologies, here's my top 10 list of movies for 2022. Starting from the bottom and working my way up, coming in at number 10 is The Batman. Now, I know a lot of people were uncertain whether or not Robert Pattinson was the right choice to play the Caped Crusader, and myself included. But after his performances in The Lighthouse and Good Time, he certainly showed that he was way more than a sparkly bloodsucker. The noir mystery of The Batman was a great surprise for me because I didn't know it was going to play out so much like a detective mystery. Now, I love the nods to Seven, and although the film has basically two climaxes and a false ending, I still had fun with the ride. Now, I do wish the villain would have been kept out of the trailers because when we actually get that reveal, it was a bit anticlimactic. Even still, Pattinson, he was awesome. The Batmobile, is probably my favorite version out of all of them. Colin Farrell was outstanding and unrecognizable. And then both Zoe Kravitz and Jeffrey Wright, they stole their scenes, and they're amazing to watch. Now, while I'm not sure this surpasses The Dark Knight for me, the new take on the story was really enjoyable, and it's certainly a movie that I want to rewatch every now and again. So now for my number 9 movie. Now, this one had a very limited release, but it made the rounds a bit at some festivals, and I was fortunate enough to get a screener for it. Also, I hadn't even heard about this ultra-violent thriller until my friend Ruben from the Ruby Tuesday, he told me about it. Now, talking about the South Korean slaughterfest, Project Wolf Hunting. This is one of the most violent movies I've seen in quite a while. And even though Terrifier 2 was violent, that one can't even hold a candle to the amount of bloodshed that Project Wolf Hunting delivers. There's not a ton of character development in this, but I do think there's enough to form some mild attachments to a few characters. But is anyone really safe in this movie? It's about a group of convicts that are being transported via ship, and as they're out on the sea, all hell breaks loose in a violent uprising. But that's only the beginning. I'm not really sure when this is going to get an actual proper full release, but if you're into extremely violent action that's also a lot of fun, put Project Wolf Hunting on your list to check out. All right, now at number 8 is Bullet Train. Now this movie certainly has some issues, but I had an enormous amount of fun watching. And then when I rewatched, it was just as great. Brad Pitt is sarcastic and funny, but for me, the real standouts in this contained action comedy are Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson as Lemon and Tangerine. Like the fruit? Oh my gosh, the fight choreography, it is outstanding, and the close quarters battles just make for some very fast-paced and exciting exchanges. Yeah, the story is thin in spots, and the final scene CGI, I thought it was laughable, but that didn't take away from the overall enjoyment of watching this large cast of characters duke it out on a speeding land missile. If you didn't get the chance to see this in the theater, I do think Bullet Train is still available on Netflix, at least in the US. Now I'm transitioning from something absurd and just fun to my number 7 movie that has some incredible action, but more so has characters that are powerfully crafted and ones that I got super invested in. I'm talking about The Woman King. Viola Davis is spectacular as the general of this female army. She has such an awesome presence as a leader, but I especially love her when we see the softer moments where her hard, war-worn shell is dropped and then she allows her emotions to envelop her. There are some great emotional moments, and although a few times the arc was obvious, they still didn't take away from the storytelling. Now, for as great as Davis was in this, there are 3 additional cast members that I was totally sucked into. There's Thuso Mbedu, and I think I pronounced her name correctly, sort of, Sheila Atom, and Lashana Lynch. Now, each of them showcases a different area of strength and power. But for me, the absolute standout was Lashana Lynch. She had humor and ferocity, and there is a total gut punch moment with her that made me want to yell at the screen. The action sequences are filmed really well, creating some excitement and peril for the characters, and there's been a Braveheart feel to some of the executions, which I enjoyed also. Now, I love the performances, the story, and really the whole package, which is why The Woman King, it sits on my list at number 7. Okay, almost halfway through the list. This next one at number 6 was a massive surprise for me, and I think really the rest of the world too. I'm talking about the worldwide hit RRR. Now, I tried to see this in theaters, but it was never showing around me at a time that I could get to, and then it was gone rather quickly. Now, luckily, Netflix grabbed it, the distribution rights, and I watched it the first weekend that it was available. The story of two seemingly opposing forces working a scheme of deception, but each with ulterior motives, who end up becoming best friends in the process. I mean, it was enough to hook me. But then, when the movie throws in insane action pieces, like careening off a bridge to save a little boy and swinging through a burning blaze, or a character throwing a tiger at an oncoming threat, or then hurling a motorcycle at an opponent. I mean, heck, there's even an epic dance-off sequence that is energetic and entrancing. I mean, RRR is the whole package. It's an epically told story that features rich characters, an engaging storyline, some despicable villains, and then a friendship that's inspiring. The storytelling is a bit unique when you figure that we don't get one of the main characters' backstories until about an hour and a half into the film. And by that time, I was totally invested in him. So then to learn about his motivations only solidified how much I liked the character. Now, if somehow you've not watched RRR yet, do yourself a favor and absolutely check this out. Don't watch an English dub, read the subtitles, and then get captivated by the experience. All right, I'm at the halfway point, and before I dive into the last 5 of my top 10, I want to give a few honorable mentions. Now, these are in no particular order, and I did have to trim this down. Otherwise, I could have like 15 honorable mentions. So, the first that I want to mention is Jordan Peele's Nope. I had a blast with this one, and loved not only the commentary that was present, but the discussion that the film created. The effects are awesome, and for me personally, I'm so glad I stayed away from all of the trailers because I got to see the film's reveal for the first time while I was watching, rather than having it spoiled for me with the trailer. Now, the acting is fun, and while I really enjoyed both Keke Palmer and Daniel Kaluuya, Brandon Perea stole the show. Next on my honorable mentions is The Innocents. Now, this is a horror that is quite disturbing, but amazing in its execution. The fact that the story uses children who have special abilities and then focuses on the dark portions of the human spirit, it makes this very intriguing and an oppressive tale. It's certainly worth the watch, but you may want something light to view after, as this could put you in the bell jar for just a bit. Another of my honorable mentions is one that I don't think a lot of people liked, but I really dug it. It's Cyrano, with Peter Dinklage, Haley Bennett, Kelvin Harrison Jr., and Ben Mendelsohn. Now, yeah, this is a version of the Cyrano de Bergerac story that's been done just several times before, but this version is based on the stage musical. And for me, the soundtrack is amazing. It's something that I actually listen to quite frequently. Now, I don't think the story does much in the way of anything new, but the cast, especially Dinklage and Bennett, they are awesome on screen. And the tension that's felt between them, it's palpable. And for me, it was captivating. Now, I wasn't a huge fan of the ending, but that's more because I wanted a fairy tale ending. Now, the last 2 on my honorable mentions list are Indian films, and one that I don't ever hear anything about. The other came and went from the theater quickly in my area, so I didn't get a chance to see it until it hit Netflix. Now, that one is Major. It's based on a true story of the attack on Mumbai. Now, this is a very emotional movie that's filled with great action and excellent character development. There's a training montage in this that should be used as an example of how to effectively do a training montage, where we don't feel cheated with any of the story and get some huge understanding of a character despite it being a rather short sequence and there not being too much dialogue. Now, if I remember correctly, I cried twice in Major. It was touching and very effective at establishing endearing characters. The other film is called Television, and this one is a comedy that had me laughing out loud. It's very situational in the humor, but there's a pureness and simplicity to the story, while also having a small social commentary about the power and influence of media. There's a ton that's obvious within the story, but I didn't even care. A lot of the time, I wanted the obvious thing to happen because the setup was perfect, and I knew it would be hilarious. And then it was. Now, I've been looking for a way to rewatch this. So far, I can't find it anywhere. I am glad that I got to see this in the theater, and if you do ever get a chance to check out Television, don't pass it up. Okay, so now let's get back to the best of list, and it's time for my number 5 spot. Now, I started this movie, and I almost turned it off because of how cringy it was when it began. But I decided to stick with it. Oh, I'm so glad I did, because Deadstream turned out to be one of the best surprises of the year. This is written and directed by Vanessa and Joseph Winter, and it stars Joseph Winter in the lead role as a disgraced streamer who's trying to win back his audience and sponsors by spending the night alone in a haunted house. The setup for this is awesome, and it's just so in your face with the POV cameras and the interaction of Winter with his online audience. Through multiple cameras, we get to see all kinds of weird imagery, and it's most effective when it's not caught immediately by Winter. I mean, it provides a creepy sort of, did I just see that type of scenario, where it's on screen for long enough for us to be pretty sure we saw something, but not 100% sure. And then there are the practical effects, which are amazing. They're disturbing and unsettling, but also with a slight bit of cheese. And I mean that with nothing but love. I mean, I laughed out loud many times during this movie. And I gotta find a way to incorporate Winter's Wheel of Stupid Things into stuff that I do, because I just love that concept and the name. And then finally, which is probably one of the most awesome parts to this horror comedy, is Winter's scream. At first, it was annoying or it seemed ridiculous. And then I looked forward to it, because as the story went along, the screams turned from something done for show to something that was out of pure terror. And I was enjoying it all. Now the cheese works, the comedy works, the suspense and the horror work, all combining then to make one of the most memorable and enjoyable movies of the year, let alone horrors. I mean, if you've not seen Deadstream on Shudder, absolutely do yourself a favor and watch it. Okay, so we've now reached the point where the next 3 movies were in a constant state of flux, and I had to finally just commit them to a position on this list and then suck it up and go along with it. Coming in at number 4 is Nicolas Cage being the most Nick Cage he can be in the most Nick Cage movie ever, with the unbearable weight of massive talent. This is wildly self-aware of where it sits within the zeitgeist, playing fully on the draw of Nicolas Cage and his prolific, if not odd, film career. And then when you couple him with Pedro Pascal, their chemistry and dynamic, it is spellbinding and a joy to watch. They're the buddy duo that you never knew you needed. And when they trip on LSD, that sequence had me laughing out loud at their ridiculousness. Now, while the setup with the CIA agents within the story does help to create some of the impetus for the storyline, it really became secondary to the friendship and the deep dive into cinema that's shared between Cage and Pascal. The movie is silly, and it almost shouldn't work, and yet it gels together wonderfully to create something that is suspenseful, actiony, full of melodrama, and also filled with some heart-filled emotion. Now, I loved how much Cage just dove into the role, embracing any weird characterization of him and fully committing to playing it out. I just recently rewatched this, and I loved it just as much as I did when I saw it in the theater. The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent is a feel-good movie wrapped in a buddy action flick, and it's going to put a smile on your face to watch Cage and Pascal become the best of friends, and also discuss the 3rd greatest film of all time. Now for my number 3 pick, this movie was not only the multiverse movie we needed, but it's the one we deserved. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once is a wonderfully executed family drama that's filled with some mind-melting theories and spectacular effects. And then despite the complexity of how they make the multiverse work, it all makes a ton of sense and is actually quite clever. Michelle Yeoh is outstanding in the lead, and I love that while she gets to show off her martial arts expertise, she also gets to showcase her emotional and dramatic prowess. As the lead character of Evelyn, she is both sympathetic and antagonistic, giving us both a hard and soft edge that makes her a well-layered character. Stephanie Sue is the daughter of Joy. She is snarkily awesome, and I just love how she embraces her role and plays it up to the fullest. There's bravado and some menace, but she also is soft and vulnerable, creating a great dynamic within the family. Jamie Lee Curtis is great, and I really love the frumpy display that she puts on. And then it's a lot of fun when she takes part in the action sequences. But I really loved her conversation with Evelyn in the latter portion of the movie. It's powerful and touching. And then we have Ke Huy Quan as Evelyn's husband, Wayman. Now that man and his fanny pack are not to be trifled with. He brings so much charisma and warmth to the screen, making him a standout in an already talented cast. Now the action sequences in this, they're engaging and exciting, filmed with some amazing choreography. And then when that is coupled with the special effects and the editing, this becomes a very enveloping story that can make you laugh, wince, and even tear up. Everything Everywhere All at Once, it's a layered and complex story to tell, and it's tackled in a very approachable and understandable way. And because it's all sweet at the heart and emotionally impactful, it's incredibly difficult to not enjoy this one. All right, we are down to the final two. And coming in second place is the movie that I didn't think really existed until I actually saw the film. It had been delayed because of COVID, but Top Gun Maverick was definitely worth the wait. To take an iconic movie and after so many years make a sequel and have it be just as emotional and exciting, if not more, that's a hard feat to accomplish. It's especially great that they kept the spirit of the original film. And while having a lot of direct similarities, it also still felt very much like its own story with fresh appeal. The cast, it's awesome. And the character growth we watch, not only for Maverick, but Rooster as well, is inspiring and touching. And when I rewatched this, I was really worried that it would lose a lot of the appeal because all of the action sequences wouldn't be new. I was so wrong. I think it may have been even more exciting because the anticipation for the breathtaking stunt work, it was amplified since I knew what was coming. Now I'm blown away by the visuals and the flying. Part of what made the first movie so much fun was the aerial work, and here they kick it up even more. Tom Cruise knows how to deliver action, and this was no different. I do still think it's funny that, again, we have an unnamed enemy that has to be thwarted, but really, the opponent doesn't matter when the flying is so cool. One more thing. Dang it. The scene with Iceman, it was heartfelt and emotional, and I'm quite certain that I am not the only one who teared up at that point. Now, somehow you have not seen Top Gun Maverick, do yourself a favor and give it a go. It's modern nostalgia with visuals that would just blow your hair back. And now we have reached the end of the list, the top, the best, the movie that I most enjoyed from 2022. And this one was actually one that I didn't even want to see. I bought tickets to view this at Sundance, but I almost didn't view it. And that would have been the biggest mistake of the year. Brian and Charles is a sweet and pure story about a man who builds himself a friend in the form of a robot. This is a quirky film, and the simplicity of it is what makes it so endearing. Brian is an eternal optimist. The dude is just so nice and kind and hopeful. He's an inventor of things that nobody needs or wants, but he keeps at it. He's also the town handyman, and it's cute to watch him be utterly shy with the girl he likes. And she's just as awkward as him, so that pairing, it's adorable. But then we have the addition of Charles Petrescu, the robot. Now he's odd, huge, rather square, and he loves cabbage. It makes no sense and it really shouldn't work. But this movie is one of those that is guaranteed to make you feel joyous and even hopeful about humanity. The way this is filmed, it's semi-documentary style. So Brian directly addresses the camera, and then that invites us into his world to experience this along with him. The dialogue, it's witty, smart, laugh out loud funny at times, and just an amazing way to spend 90 minutes. Now, the one minor negative I could give is that the antagonists for the story, they're way overblown. They're mean and despicable, and because it's such a stark contrast with Brian, they seem cartoonish in their antics. I still love their addition to the film because they're ridiculous and stupid, and that makes Brian just look all the more innocent and wonderful. Brian and Charles is one of those movies that I don't think is ever going to get old. The cinematography is beautiful, the acting is convincing and engaging, and the story, while it is simple, is rich with character growth and heroes that are easy to root for. Plus, if you're ever feeling down, this one is certain to cheer you up and may even make you want to take a trip to Honolulu. All right, so that is my list. I'm curious about what makes your best of movie list for 2022. Let me know in the comments below. Now, hopefully there will be some that I didn't even get a chance to see this year because I love discovering new gems. Please definitely share them below. Thanks so much for just an amazing year. I do hope that the reviews have been helpful. And regardless if we agree or disagree on a movie or series, I enjoy the discussion. And I also hope that you have a spectacular new year that is filled with fun, joy, and of course, excellent movies. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.